Welcome to the Really Likable Geeks podcast. I'm Steve.
I'm Matt.
And I'm Stuart.
And this is the podcast where we talk about nerd stuff and things that keep you from going outside, like video games, comic books, anime, and other nerd things alike. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Player One Coffee and Audible. Thank you guys so much for sponsoring this episode of the Really Likable Geeks podcast. What's up, guys?
Yeah. It's been a minute.
It's been 1 week.
Yeah,
this joke really sucks a lot.
It's been longer
like
than
that
a week.
It's been like 2-3 weeks almost since we recorded anything because
score
we
of
got
days.
new gear and we.
How many score? Was it 4 score?
No, 1 score.
But now we got it in. We're recording on new stuff, and we're super excited for it.
Yeah.
So we're back. Dinosaur tail.
All right.
Oh, I thought you were say from outer space.
No.
Okay. I was gonna say Back in Black, but
Well, that's a good one too.
That would have been a better one.
Yeah.
That would have been a much.
That would have been much
one.
better than mine.
What was yours?
We are not.
You said we're back, and I was like, from outer space.
Oh. So. Oh man! So what's been a lot of stuff has been going on in the past few weeks.
We've missed a lot of.
We've missed a lot.
days.
We missed like Pokemon Day and all that, which we planned to do. But now,
Hey, I didn't miss Pokemon Day. It's in my heart.
I mean, we didn't have a chance.
Oh,
to
I
talk about it
never
on
All
the
of
podcast.
my work that I had written on the board.
Gone. Useless now.
I
You might
erased
as well
it, I
have
know.
not even done it.
Yeah, that's.
It's pretty much not there.
Did you write that?
I wrote the new stuff, yes.
Well, then all your work that you wrote on the board is not gone. It's right there on the board.
Truth.
Okay.
Respect.
So,
What are we talking about this week, guys?
well, today, the day we're recording, is March 10th.
It is.
Mario Day.
Really?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I hate everything about
March
this reason
10th.
why.
MARIO.
I-O.
Oh, 1-0. I get it because it's the way it's
Oh,
spelled.
is that
Yeah.
really?
It's like
Yes,
Wow.
I didn't know
He's
that.
joking. You are not.
You are not.
I just didn't put
Actually, I
it
wasn't
together.
so much
Literally,
joking as
did
I was
not
trying to
put it
like for
together.
the
Yeah.
for the listeners
It's
to get
kind
the
of like
visual.
Lee. It's kind of like
Because some people might not know why, and I was literally explaining.
MAR1.
It's like,
Or having
how,
you
it's like how Star Wars Day is
People are
May
smart.
the 4th.
No, I get that.
And then
So,
the Revenge of the
I
Fifth.
don't play games.
Revenge
I
of
don't.
the 5th.
I don't.
Ugh. That's terrible.
Well, then what good are you to words are hard. Sorry. So we're talking about
Talking about the
Mario and
Yeah.
other things.
yeah,
to go
we're
along
gonna
with
go.
it.
We're gonna go in the Wayback Machine
Yeah.
and go back to retro, the gaming of our forefathers.
The golden age of video games. The good old days.
Yeah,
Which we talked about on a previous episode, I believe.
I think
we had the golden age of video games.
Yeah.
We
episode.
did the golden age of gaming, but we went back to like Super Nintendos and GameCubes
Yeah.
and PlayStation 1s.
Yeah, it's retro.
Right.
it is retro now, but
We're going to jump even further and go back to like NES and Atari.
Did we
Yeah.
talk about the NES on the golden age episode? I thought we did.
briefly.
Oh,
But
that's what
I-
I mean. That's what I started with was the NES.
Same here.
Yeah,
I played with
And
them.
then it went to the Genesis with its blast processing, whatever that is.
yeah.
It didn't matter what the processing was. It had Sonic, which made it awesome.
Truth.
Unfortunately, Sonic nowadays is just very disturbing.
It's true.
Yeah.
But Sonic and Sonic 2 was just awesome.
Sonic and Knuckles.
Yeah, okay.
No, Sonic and Knuckles
Wait,
was great.
Sega, like the one that you got.
Oh,
for your
like
birthday?
Genesis.
Yes,
Yeah.
like
Oh,
yeah,
that one
like
had all
that.
the Disney ones too, and then it had
Yeah, like the
I got,
Aladdin.
I got,
Bernstein
I got
with
the,
that crazy
I got the
trick at the
Sega
start.
Genesis
the 32X.
with the like 86 games on it.
Oh, okay, I know which one you're talking about. The one that's
I
all
got
built
that.
in.
Yes,
Yeah, that
I
thing's
got
Yeah,
wicked.
there's
and
like
you can put
Aladdin
cartridges in it.
and like
Oh, you can?
Yeah, you
Lion
can do
King.
both.
That is awesome.
Yeah, right.
I have some Sega games you want to
Super
borrow.
cool. Yeah, I do.
I have a whole
Do you
bunch.
have Streets of Rage? That's the only Sega
I
game.
don't.
Ugh.
I got Street Fighter 2 Turbo Tournament Edition though.
It has that on there.
Does it?
Yeah.
Dang.
Anyways,
We're not
retro
talking about
gaming.
Sega this week.
Retro gaming.
I mean, we
So
will.
I think there's been a large guess
Influx of bees. Sorry.
there's been a large resurgence of kind of classic and retro gaming, especially.
Oh, dude. Hop on Steam, look up indie games, and see how many 8-bits you see.
yeah.
It's just everywhere.
Yeah, I think that maybe it's because it's easy to make because there's not much involved.
There's not a lot of graphic.
Well, not to
design
mention
needed.
Not to mention
Yeah.
once you have like I remember not
sprites,
too
it
long ago
doesn't-
one of the
Yeah.
times you were mentioning that you were playing with RPG Maker and you were making a game.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. Yeah.
Well, but the thing is, once you have the sprites, boom, you're done,
Yeah.
yeah.
and it does make it a lot easier on the
So
indie gamer.
it's-
Bright work is tough.
Yeah,
I will
I
say,
know.
Yes, but the
it's-
thing is, once you have the sprite,
when I was in college, we used Game Maker Pro. I don't know if you've ever
RPG Maker.
No, just Game Maker.
Game Maker. Yeah.
When that first came out.
God, what was that, like 15 years ago? 10 years ago?
I wasn't in college that
I'm about
long
to say,
ago,
he's
but
not
No,
like
when it came
35.
out.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
when it's in early stage development. It was
yeah,
like 10,
but I
15
had
years ago.
like we would use Game Maker like 3 or 4, and
Wow.
I mean, it had like a million built-in sprites, and it
Right.
still wasn't enough for like what I wanted to do with it. Like we would do like I think the very first project we ever had with it was like a top-down shooter, like a la 1942.
Oh, okay.
Like, that
Kinda
was, like,
a
the first
Like
project.
the dungeon crawler style? Like the top down?
No, like the top-down shooter.
Oh.
Like with the
you mean,
waves, the waves of enemies, like the
Yeah.
bullet hell.
Oh,
games.
okay.
Yeah. Like
So
that.
Gotcha.
the old school ones where you're in a fighter jet and there's just
Yeah,
bullets flying
waves
everywhere.
of
Yeah, it
enemies.
comes
Yeah.
from the top of the
Yeah,
screen
yeah,
down,
yeah.
and you're at the bottom.
Yeah, like 1942.
Yeah. Or what's that? Never mind.
Yeah,
Arcstrider or whatever it's called.
Yes, exactly like that. So, those, I mean, it was such an easy to use engine
Yeah.
that it kind of made me nostalgic, and that was a lot of one of the big things that's kind of happening right now too, especially like in LA and New York, is a big uptick in video game bars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you'll have like the One Up bar in Los Angeles is fantastic, but they don't have
They're barcades.
a barcade,
Yeah.
but they don't. But the One Up bar doesn't have any game that was made like after 1988.
What about the one that's in Vegas?
That one's got some more modern stuff, but like it seems like the ones that really do well, like One Up bar, are
The ones that keep it
keep it
retro.
simple. Like they have like
keep it
they have like
classic.
Joust.
Yeah.
Like that's the flavor of games that they have.
Pac-Man.
Joust,
Well, because you're drinking
Pac-Man.
and those are the easier ones to
Oh
play.
Yeah.
Not only that, but nostalgia is a big thing when it comes to those.
I was about to
those
say-
But also you're
specific.
drinking.
Mm-hmm.
I was about to say, for
places.
my age, if you were to get me into a bar and drinking and then throw a console in front of me and you gave me Gauntlet Legends,
Yeah.
I would just be
Oh.
like, let's do this.
Dude.
But
Quarters.
no, that's
take,
my
Take
point.
my money.
So it's
Take
something that
my
you're
money.
comfortable playing, but
I
That's-
would have so much Gauntlet.
That's the cool thing about the One Up bar is that all the games are free.
Yeah, as long as you drink,
So you
can
just,
play.
as long as you're drinking, you can play.
Yeah.
So it was for my friend's 30th birthday about three or 4 years ago.
was it Doug?
It was Doug. I didn't know if he wanted me to name drop him, but you already
Oh.
did.
That's fine.
Hi, Doug.
Was it
Hi, Doug. Don't know you.
So for his 30th, we went to his wife set it all up, and we all made the trip out to Los Angeles, and we all like stayed in a hotel like right down the street. And we went to the One Up bar, and I was just wrecking people on Joust, like just taking
game's
all
so fun.
comers.
This game is so fun too.
Oh yeah, and it's so
like-
simple. It's such a simple like mechanic.
it's like
too.
an early day Nidhogg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The same. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had the arcade version of Super Mario, where the platforms are
Yeah.
smaller.
And they're super hard to get through.
Yeah.
You can't even like get through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was gnarly.
Well, the one that I went to recently, where was it? I think it was the one. There was one in Henderson, Nevada, I think it is. And they had the original Donkey Kong,
Mm-hmm.
the one where you are Mario,
Yeah.
going up the ladders and all that.
Mhm.
They have like the the record wall, which is like how
Mm-hmm.
what level you can get to. Well, then there's another which I thought was really cool. But then they had it for like every arcade cabinet there.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked about it a few times on the podcast, but one of my favorite arcade games because of my dad is Tempest.
Ooh.
Tempest is the one
tough.
where you have, for those of you who don't know, it's like a track, and you have like this thing. It's like a weird.
It's like a ship.
It's like a ship, I guess.
It's supposed
Goes
to be.
along the track. It can't go up or back or anything like that.
You're constantly going forward.
Yeah, you're constantly going forward, and you have to clear the items, and you have like little fuzzy things that try.
Do you
to
know?
get
Do you
and all
know the
that.
cheat for Tempest?
And which one?
The famous one.
The one where everything goes away?
No. The one where you get 88 lives.
No,
Oh,
I never
yeah.
used a cheat on that game.
You don't know.
because-
It's not a cheat. It's just you. If you get a score over 100,000,
Yeah.
and then you die with the point in the last, and then in the one spot,
Uh-huh.
if your point total like in the one spot is like a 3, a 7, or a 9,
Yeah.
if you lose your last guy,
Mhm.
then you automatically get 88 lives.
I
and you
never
can start
knew
over
that.
for free.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Oh, because I always
That's an
just
old
got
one.
through with
That's an old one.
what lives I had.
They
with my dad.
they mentioned it in
But,
what was that awful book that's basically like toilet paper?
You mean Ready Player One?
Yeah, Ready Player. That's it. That was it.
But no, this
Really?
game after. Oh God, here we go.
Really
We're
what?
never gonna get through this.
I wouldn't wipe myself with that.
Well played.
That's a good one. But no, Tempest. When you get to a certain point in the game, the track that you're on disappears. So you're just a ship, and you have to figure out what pattern the track is that you're on, and there's just stuff coming at you.
That's tough.
When you beat the level, you go through to the next part. But if there's like a stick hanging out, you hit the stick and blow up. So you don't even know if there's a stick there. So you just
Yeah.
have to be really good at memorizing. My dad is the only person I've ever known to get to that screen. I mean, it's been done before in the World Championships and all like that. They had Nintendo World Championships, all that stuff, but or the Atari Championships. But so there's all of these, like I said, at the arcade, at that barcade, there's all these like high scores and everything. The only one that didn't have anything was Tempest.
Yeah.
My dad went to Vegas probably like 3 or 4 years ago, and there was I think he was at, I'm pretty sure that he was at Circus or something like that, and they had a Tempest machine there that said beat the high score, win like $100 or something like that.
Yeah.
And my dad thrashed that high score, and I think he went back like last year or something like that. He still has the high score.
Nice.
It's
Did you do it again and get
insane.
another
I was saying, did he
$100?
thrash
I
his
wish.
own high score?
If he had the time to, he probably would. He was, and the funny thing was, I think he spent like maybe 5 minutes on that cabinet. It just because back then it was all memorization. It was always
Yeah.
the same every time.
Yeah.
Depending on where you get. So 100 levels, he knew how to do all of them. So in 5 minutes, he just destroyed everyone, and like I think he gave up. He was just like, nah, no one's ever gonna beat this.
He's like, I've already got the high score. I've been here too long. Crash, 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 crash. Done. Thanks.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
it's so funny because like those older games, like they were trying to make, you know, really great designs, but they only had so much memory for like sprite allocation.
Yeah.
So like a lot of times, like they didn't end up looking like, okay, so for example, the way that they had to have Mario's face not look like just a mush blob was they gave him the mustache, which defined the nose. Like that was the only reason he has a mustache, was because otherwise he just his face looked like a blob.
Yeah.
So, and that's why he has like the really big nose too,
Right.
because otherwise it'd just be like a square for his head
Yep.
because of the pixels.
You remember in I think it was
suddenly he's Italian.
Yeah,
Just-
exactly.
just for the NES there was golf. Remember? Because there was nothing else. You had golf, tennis, baseball. That's what they were called. And Mario on the golf one just looked like this giant, fat, like, just derpy looking. He looked nothing like Mario.
No.
Nothing like him. And then, of course, when Mario came out. I think that was like the line. It was like, okay, Mario's our mascot. We'll just put him in everything.
So
You know?
do you guys remember Centipede, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
So
It's one of my favorite arcade games.
it wasn't until I was
Snake.
like, it wasn't until I was like,
Well, reverse steak.
it wasn't until I was like 20, in my 20s, that I found out that like in Centipede, it's not a ship you're controlling.
No.
No, I finally found out the story behind like
It's like
the
a little
game.
dude.
Yeah,
You're like a little guy.
you're a gnome
Yeah.
who's like attacking centipedes who have gotten into his garden with his magic wand.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't get that at all from that design. That doesn't look like a dude with a wand at all. It looks like a ship.
Well, because
It looks like a fighter ship. It looks like Galaga.
it
like
does. If you look at the artwork, it's just the centipede, but the early artwork was like
Showed-
the mushrooms.
showed
and
the guy with the wand.
the
I was
way
like,
early.
what? That's
Yeah.
centipede. That
Yeah.
doesn't, I don't remember a
How
guy
did
with
you
the
learn
wand.
the story?
I saw the original artwork and I
Oh.
saw the guy with the wand. I was like, how is this centipede? And I like looked up like the Wikipedia.
I
and
gotta
it's
Google
like,
this.
yeah, I was like, oh, it's a guy with the wand and he's throwing spells at centipedes in his like mushroom garden. I was
Yeah.
like, that makes sense. I was like, why are there mushrooms in space? Space shrooms.
Shrooms.
Yeah, I didn't understand that at all.
I don't think most people would understand space shrooms.
Yeah, that makes little to no sense.
It makes zero sense.
The only
one
people
of-
who would understand them are the people on them.
I think one of the very first
Fact.
one of the very first like retro games like I ever got deep into was when I was like 10 or 11, and I would go bowling with my dad a lot.
Mm.
And one of the times like I saw like when we were leaving, I saw like an arcade cabinet and it had like a tracker ball on it. And I was like, "Oh, what's that?" My dad's like, "Oh, yeah, that's it."
That's the one, right?
Like I was like, "What?
See?
What is this?"
Yep.
But so I saw an arcade cabinet and it had a tracker ball on it and then like buttons. I was like, "What's that?" And my dad's like, "Oh, this is Missile Command." I was like, "What's that?" And so he's like, "Oh, I'll show you."
Dude, Missile Command.
I was blown away by that game.
Pun intended.
And that game
Like,
is hard.
That game was
I have a question.
super hard.
I have a question.
But my dad was because my dad's left-handed too.
Oh,
So like it's
super
because
advantage.
because the buttons are set up for someone who's left-handed
Yeah.
because the designer of the game
Was
was
left-handed.
left-handed.
Yeah.
So the tracker ball is the one you use with your left hand, and then the buttons firing are your right hand. So if you're right hand dominant, like that's super hard
it's
to play
really
that
hard.
game.
Yeah. Yeah.
Legit question. I have heard rumors that if you play that game alongside, and I forget what song it is,
Rush.
that it- is
It's
that
Rush.
is that true?
It's Major Tom, right?
That-
or
No, it's
not-
Rush.
not-
He's right. He's right. It is Rush.
It's
not
Rush.
Major Tom. It's Sorry. No. Go ahead.
It's Rush. I heard this rumor, but I think it was popularized by the TV show Chuck.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Wait, what is this you're talking about?
So like someone said that like because you know how like Rush's music is all mathematical formulas.
Right.
And supposedly like in the beat of not 2112 but Uncle Tom's Cabin
Yeah.
is it is the same tempo
That
of
you
the
need to
missiles coming at you.
Oh,
And
really?
and mixed with the bass line is where on the screen they're going to appear. Supposedly.
I never
I've
heard that.
never seen anyone confirm that.
I don't know. It'd
See,
be
that I
interesting.
never heard of,
It would
but
be
yeah.
interesting to find out.
There's
I
only one way
doubt
to
it.
find this.
I have
It's
no
on-
idea.
It's on YouTube somewhere.
I would doubt it. I'm like my vote is doubt, but it's just it seems interesting.
But that was popularized by the show Chuck
Yeah.
because they had an episode where like the creator of like Missile Command, and I think it was the actual guy too, was on the show.
yeah, they did. They had the actual guy.
Yeah.
He hid like a code in the kill screen at the very, very end if you actually like somehow managed to beat it. And they needed to get
It's
that
like
code
an actual Missile Command.
to,
like
yeah, because it was literally to save the world from nuclear war or whatever.
Right. That game was super hard.
global thermonuclear
I could never
war.
play that game and
Would you like
conserve
to play a
all
game?
everything I had. Missile Command.
Oh,
I
that-
could never
yeah.
conserve everything because I'm like, well, it's raining down. It's coming down. Like, what do
Yeah.
I do?
You need to
I
not
can't
miss
do
ever.
anything. Like,
Well, the
Each
other
one needs to hit.
the other thing is by like the 12th level, every single missile you shoot has to take out 2 other missiles because that's how many they're given to you.
there's no way.
Yeah, it's hard. That game is
I'm an idiot
so
when
great.
it comes to that. I mean, I understand the concept, but it's just there's so much stuff. It starts off so easy.
Yeah, my dad
Here's one or
wrecked-
two.
my dad
Here's like
wrecked-
50.
My dad
Get wrecked, scrub.
wrecked on that game.
God,
I played.
games back then were unforgiving. Super
and
unforgiving.
this will segue us into our next topic was emulation of retro games. I played an emulator of Missile Command with a
it's
mouse.
Like impossible.
No, it's easy. It's so
you mean
easy.
it's easy?
With
Because
a
you just
mouse?
click, click,
oh
click,
yeah,
click,
it's so
click,
easy.
click,
Oh,
click,
you
click,
mean
click,
like the
click.
emulation of it had it to where you could just click on the screen where you wanted?
Well, yeah,
missiles
because
to
that's
go?
instead of
Okay,
using a
that's dumb.
instead of
That's
using
way
a
too
tracker
easy.
ball, you use the mouse.
And then instead of using the
Forget that.
That
button,
was so
you use
easy.
the click.
Forget that.
So easy. I was like, oh, this game.
See, I thought you were talking like you were just never mind. Yeah, because some games are
Windows
bad
8.
emulation.
Touchscreen emulation.
Oh god,
Oh yeah, that'd make it
Oh,
even easier.
that'd be. Well, that would be if the touchscreen was accurate.
Part
True.
of what
Windows.
made that game so difficult was the tracker ball.
Use Windows 8.
No.
Oh, okay.
But I'm just saying. Are you kidding? I won't even use Windows 10.
I use Windows 10.
No way. I won't even go.
It's fine.
No, thank you.
Are you
It's
still on
running our
XP
system.
there, bud?
Nah, 7.
The Likable
Oh.
Geeks runs on Windows 10.
Yeah,
Not all of them.
yeah,
Well.
Windows 10. Windows still owes me a laptop because it blue screen to death
you're
me.
telling me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember you
That's
talking
a whole
about
nother
that.
episode. But yeah,
We'll have
you
to
know,
have
one
Episode
of,
52. Why
one
do we
of-
hate Windows? No, I'm just kidding.
one of the things that
Please don't sue me
became,
back.
you know, insanely popular in the early 2000s and even going towards now is emulation of classic games.
Yeah.
Like you can find entire websites just dedicated to
We will not
emulations.
name these either.
I'm not.
No, I'm
yeah,
just
I'm
stating
not,
that because of.
I'm not-
Before we get into it,
I'm not saying that it's a good thing or
Yeah.
illegal. I'm just saying they are there.
they are definitely there.
And there's entire websites that just have the entire Atari catalog,
Yeah.
and you can just play them in your browser.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
See, I have a lot of experience when it comes to the emulation side of stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Of course, I've tried. I had to try emulation, so I had to get the game somehow. I didn't know how to rip games
Mhm.
or anything. I had no idea. So yeah, you know, I went to one of those websites and I emulated it. Now I was so nervous about early day emulation because the rule was if you owned the game, it was okay to emulate that, download it, emulate that. So I got, I think I got Mega Man X. And I was
Mhm.
like, I own it. I can download the emulation. Well, now because of like
They're becoming licensed.
yeah, they could become
Yeah,
licensed,
there's official emulations now.
which is what I was gonna go into. I have. Matt, you remember the arcade cabinet that I built?
Yeah.
I'm still working on it. It's got like 4,000 games ranging all the way from the Atari all the
Mhm.
way up to now the PS2.
I'll wreck you on Joust.
Let's do it. I'm down. And it's run
I
on.
get
right
ostrich.
here. No,
I get I get ostrich.
Okay,
All right.
me too. I was kidding.
No, I'm ostrich.
But
I call it
and it's really cool because arcade cabinets are expensive. They're super expensive. I've always wanted a centipede cabinet, and I've always wanted
The table.
no, the original cabinet with the ball.
Oh,
with the-
okay.
the trackball
okay,
and the thing.
okay.
And then I've always wanted a Golden Tee cabinet.
Ooh,
I love
I
Golden
love
Tee.
that game. That I would have given more money to that game if it wasn't so expensive.
Golden Tee?
Yeah, because it's
insanely
stupid.
expensive.
It was stupid expensive. That was the first arcade game that I ever saw that cost more than $1.
Yeah. And it's hard.
It's and it was like 50 cents for 3 holes. I was like,
Yeah.
it's fun. I
Super fun.
love that game
I would
so much.
love to have a Golden Tee cabinet.
Yeah.
There's people that have tournaments. Golden Tee tournaments.
You can play them online
They're
because all the
insane.
Golden Tee cabinets are now linked.
Yeah,
So
it's
you can have
insane.
your access code and you can jump on the tournament from any Golden Tee cabinet
Yeah.
and like play for the high score. Like this week it's like Pebble Beach. Like play the 18
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
get your score submitted and then you can win money and like
Yeah.
or it's credits.
It's
but-
credits, but then there's like through the tournament, there's like you can win, but you can win, dude. You can like win access to like to watch the PGA Tour and stuff.
Yeah,
like there.
like live.
That's kind
They'll
of cool.
fly you
Stuff
out
like that.
That's
to-
super
yeah.
cool.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to have one, and then as well on the other side too is one of my other favorite games is Hydro Thunder. I love Hydro Thunder.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite like racing games. You know, you can now make those.
Go to the arcade where you
Yeah.
had the
At
thing you
way
sat in.
The
Yeah, the things that you can push forward, and that's the same thing with like the
Oh,
Star Wars
man.
Pod Racer had the same thing.
oh, those things were so
Okay.
cool.
and it was awesome.
That was
Star
so
Wars
cool.
Episode
Yeah.
1 Pod Racer was a phenomenal game. By far the best thing that ever came out of...
N64 and cabinet.
Yeah,
Yes. But the thing is, if you didn't play it in the arcades, where
didn't
you got to sit,
experience it.
you...
Yeah.
It's
It was
not
Because it
the
had,
same.
it had
It
both
was
the
hard.
sticks, and it was
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
learning how to turn doing this was like
Yeah. Your
once
brain
you learn,
couldn't
I'm like, oh,
comprehend
I'm an ambidextrous god. Like
it. Pretty much. I run circles around you, Sebulba. Yeah.
I can use lawnmowers. Like that prepared me how to use sit-down lawnmowers.
And tanks.
Oh, and tanks.
Tanks operate
yeah.
the same- I mean,
and,
what?
And 1940 tanks.
Yeah.
But, I mean, but yeah, you know, so I can't afford these a freaking Golden Tee cabinet's like $1,500.
That's it?
It's insane. Yeah, that's it. It's expensive. You know, Hydro Thunder cabinet, $5,000 for a Hydro Thunder cabinet.
If I was ever gonna
wish
if I was
could have
ever
one.
going to buy a cabinet to put in my house, there's only one that I would buy,
It was
and
Joust.
no, and it's $10,000. Can you guess?
It's a $10,000.
Yeah.
Or is it an arcade machine?
Yep.
It's not a pinball machine.
Nope.
It's an arcade machine.
Yep.
It's Street Fighter.
No.
Oh, I feel like those would be pretty
10
expensive.
grand, and it was the first ever arcade game
It's The Simpsons,
to be
right?
gyroscopic.
Oh, you're talking about F-Zero.
Nope.
You're not talking about the F-Zero one?
I'm talking about Afterburner.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah.
Do you remember Afterburner?
I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, where you actually had to buckle
Yes.
into the
F-Zero
game.
had
you
one like that.
Yeah, but Afterburner was the first one. You know why?
Yeah.
Because I saw Afterburner for the first time when I was like 12, and I saw T2. And remember, he's playing it in the arcade at the beginning of the movie. John Connor is. And I was like, what is that game? And then I went to my local arcade, and they had it. You sit, for those that don't know what Afterburner is, you sit down in like a pilot's chair, like for a fighter jet, and you buckle in, and you have, your throttle and then your stick in between your legs. And when you start the game, it literally lifts you up, and you're constantly going forward, and you have, your throttle like stick,
Right.
like exactly like Hydra. But then when you tilt the stick to like turn or to yaw, the whole seating like moves,
Yeah,
and it
like sweeps.
vibrates when you like kick in the Afterburner. Amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Love that game. I like that. I will go to Chuck E. Cheese and play. All right, kid, get out of here. It's my turn.
That was the it is a fighter jet one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That has just the one joystick.
Yeah.
No, it's got the
Yeah.
two. It's got the.
Oh, that's right. The throttle.
Well, the
It's
one
got the
stick
throttle and then
the
the
throttle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's a new one too. that
There
they
is.
came out
They've
with.
updated it, and it's insane. I played like the new one at Dave and Buster's, where it's like a closed cockpit, and
Oh,
it'll actually
dang.
go like
Upside down.
45 degrees. So like you're
What?
sideways in it, and it's like
That's crazy.
gnarly.
That's so
Yeah, I
awesome.
love it. 10 grand.
See, I would love.
you
to
need
have,
like 50 square feet of
You need,
space
like, my
for
living
it.
room for that.
Yeah. Worth it.
This is my living room, kind of.
I'll
No,
watch
I
all
would
my
like to
shows on
have.
here.
What is it? I think it's F-Zero AX had the because that game's crazy. It had the same like
Yeah.
feeling. And I would love to have that game. And then they have a Hydro Thunder like that too now, which is way too expensive. But the point I'm getting at is that stuff's expensive, but you can build, and I can just straight out tell you because I built one. You can build these cabinets for like $150.
Mhm.
Just go on Craigslist, look up for people that are selling these cabinets, refurbish them, get the paint, do all that stuff, get your own marquee. You can buy like spinners and trackballs for like $20
Mhm.
from X Arcade,
Yeah.
and then just hook those into a computer system, emulate it, and there you go. You have
Oh,
it.
Ren
No one
Pi-
would ever
Give
know.
yourself a Raspberry Pi.
Raspberry Pi.
Yeah, RenPi or Raspberry Pi
That's what I'm
makes
running
it
my
so.
cabinet
Yeah,
on.
Raspberry Pi makes it like so easy.
Yeah, I'm running RetroPie on mine, and then it's all MAME
Yeah.
coded. I have it all coded through MAME on a hard drive.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's
and it's all Linux based,
and
so it's open source.
That's the other great thing is about like Raspberry Pi is like you don't have to know anything about coding to use it.
Right.
Like you can just Google Raspberry Pi. This is what I want to do, and you'll have 100
Video
videos
after video.
and code just here. This is what I did. Like the big thing that I've been seeing a lot with Raspberry Pi is the smart mirrors.
Oh, yeah.
I've been seeing a lot of those.
Which
A
actually
lot
I was-
of them have really cool designs.
I was
And
gonna
guys
tell
are
you
doing a lot
guys.
of really cool stuff.
I mean, since we're on the Raspberry Pi thing, I was going to tell you guys something. But I guess this will be like an announcement for everyone. Ooh, crazy. So we've been talking about, hey, we want to do some RPG stuff but eventually for Really Likable Geeks, we'd like to do some RPG gameplay or whatever on the stream or something like that. Well, so when you guys came in the house today, you guys noticed that I didn't have my third monitor at the TV. It's upstairs now at my house. You noticed.
I also asked about it.
Yeah, you did. So, anyways,
I didn't go in the living room
the
enough.
old silver TV we had in the where we were recording before, the big one that we had, that's what I was using, but now I took it down. So, Raspberry Pi, I found out on YouTube. There's a guy who makes these scripts, these Linux scripts for Raspberry Pi, where you plug them in and you hook like a mouse in, or you could use a trackball or whatever you want, and it hooks to a TV, and it's an RPG. It's like it's an RPG map, TV table.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
I'm making one.
Oh, that's cool.
That's
for
cool.
Super
this.
cool.
So we can hook it into the camera system, go to whatever overhead, blah blah blah.
Just do Roll20. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just host some
And
stuff. That'd be cool.
the table will have the map as well as whatever information we want to put in it. So I'm building that. That's why the TV's gone, because I wanted to make this thing. Raspberry Pi, for those of you who don't know, is like seriously the greatest thing.
It is pretty cool.
Raspberry Pi is
It's
amazing.
and it's cheap.
Yeah.
You can get a Raspberry Pi, which is a Linux-based system with like a quad-core processor, for like $30.
I'll pay $35.
So
And it's modular.
this is another great segue. We can go into ported retro gaming because Raspberry Pi is one of the big things that people are using. So the difference between emulation and ported retro gaming is that emulation is where I just have a straight rip of the game and I'm playing like Pokemon Red on my computer, which is a system that Pokemon Red was never released for. So that's a straight emulation where it's just you're emulating the Game Boy system on another.
And sometimes they
system.
can rewrite the scripts
Yeah.
and change some sprites and names around, and you can play
For-
Pokemon Red
for those
and catch Broly.
Yeah, for those people that don't know, probably the greatest emulation / redone
Oh God, don't.
of
I know what you're gonna say.
it's the Dragon Ball Z Pokemon Gold. It's Pokemon
never
Gold.
heard of this.
Oh my
I've
god.
watched him play it. It's
It's
so
amazing.
cool.
It's
What?
Pokemon Gold for the Game Boy Advance.
Right, but it's all modern for.
But they modded it so that instead of Pokemon, it's all the Dragon Ball Z fighters.
Did they just like pull the coding from Legacy of Goku and port it into Pokemon, basically? So they had all the sprites.
The
Pretty
sprites,
much. That's what it
basically,
looks like.
That's
But
what it
everything,
looks like?
but everything
Yeah.
else is
But it's
Pokemon.
It's Pokemon Gold Color.
And you
Like,
just catch
for the Game
other
Boy-
Z fighters?
Yeah.
Or
Yes.
what?
So
Yes.
so you've got
So
you've got
your
Vegeta.
first
Are you
three
serious?
your first three are either Goku,
Vegeta, or Future
or
Trunks.
no, it's
Oh.
Teen Gohan.
Oh, that's what it was.
What?
It's amazing.
Okay, but so
it's
you're-
so
really?
great.
Oh, it looks
Oh,
so
it's I
you're
love it
running
so
around-
much.
you're
I
running around
downloaded
with
I
Vegeta,
downloaded an emulator
right?
just to play it.
Dude,
on my phone.
Steve, what happens at level 16 to your starter?
Huh? It evolves.
Well,
Super Saiyan?
What does he evolve
Super
into?
Saiyan.
Ah. It's
Fuck.
amazing.
How cool is
it's
that?
so amazing.
Oh.
I
Dragon
love
Ball
it.
Z.
Yeah, I played the whole thing.
Yeah,
like
I
I
was-
was trying to remember. Like I was like, how do I catch this legendary? Because it's Broly, like one of the
It's called
legendary.
Pokemon X Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah.
or
That might be it.
Trailer DBZ Team Training.
Yeah, that's it.
Is that the one?
Yeah, that's it. It's amazing. It's so great.
It's
Whoa, the sprite work looks awesome.
yeah,
amazing.
it looks so
and,
good.
And they kept the Pokemon sprite work too. So like if you're using screen as shit, is that the one?
yeah, that's it.
Oh my god.
It's so great.
Okay, you use a Kamehameha. They use the ice beam visual from
Right.
Pokemon, but then they recolor it yellow. So you've got this yellow beam coming
What?
across.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so
it's
well
amazing.
done.
It's pretty great.
It is a beautiful emulation.
Yeah.
See, I was lucky enough. I mean, I know we're talking about emulation. A lot of things that are probably like really borderline, like might be questionable as far as legal terms go.
I don't know.
But
about
I
that
have.
one.
This seems like comedy to me.
Do you guys remember?
That's satire.
I
Yeah.
think it was last July or June or something like that. You remember Pokemon Uranium? That was a big deal. There was this PC version of Pokemon that these guys took all the scripts and everything from Pokemon, made their own game, own storyline and everything about like this nuclear reactor that like goes off in the Pokemon world.
I do
All
remember
that.
this.
It was a big deal.
I do remember this, and
The-
it never.
I remember the name
day
only.
they released it, it had
Yeah.
like 5 million
Yeah, I do
downloads or
remember
some
this.
nonsense, and they got a cease and desist like the next
Instantly?
day. Instantly, it was down. I still. Have
I
a
remember this
copy of
because
it.
it was the 3D version for the game where you're actually like moving your character into 3D.
Yeah, it was like the
environment.
original
Yeah.
Black.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember this.
And that season desist held up, huh?
I remember
I still have a copy of it still.
I guess
That
because
was
they
one of the
used.
people that downloaded it.
I guess because
The,
they used the
uh,
name Pokemon.
Yeah.
well, one of the great things, and it's actually officially licensed, and then we should probably get it eventually, is the Pokemon tabletop World Trainer game.
He has it.
You mean Pokemon Master Trainer?
Oh, you have that?
I
have
Why haven't
it.
we played that?
I don't know.
Oh.
That's a great game.
It really is.
super
great
great game. There's also I'm gonna mess I'm gonna mess this up, so I'm gonna look it up really quickly.
Hey, while
but
you're
I'll-
looking that up, I'm gonna read this really quick.
Okay, go for it.
Alrighty. I want to remind everyone that this episode of the podcast is brought to you by Audible. Thank you, Audible, for sponsoring this episode of the Really Likable Geeks podcast. Audible has an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original shows, news, and more that you can listen to on your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or standard MP3 player. For our audience, Audible is offering a free audiobook with a 30-day free trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. This week, we recommend to you Restaurant at the End of the Universe by Douglas Adams. And you can keep that book even if you cancel. To download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/RLG and browse our unmatched selection of audio content. It's that easy.
So loud.
audibletrial.com/RLG again. That's audibletrial.com/RLG. Thank you, Audible, for sponsoring the Real Likable Geeks podcast. Get you guys some listening material. Learn yourself something. Read a good book. I don't know. Matt screwed me up. Try Audible. It's awesome. I highly recommend it. I still use it
Listen
all
to
the
a
time.
good book.
Listen to a good book.
Not read.
I'm sorry, guys. I didn't think that was going to be.
Couldn't convey what I was trying to say because it was just ridiculous.
Listen, because it's audible.
Something.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was
Audible.
going to be audible.
Some,
Oh, gosh. That's
something.
funny. It was definitely Audible.
I don't
I
know.
didn't
I don't know
think
if you
it was gonna
guys
be.
have ever heard of this, but it's a tabletop RPG. It's basically Pokemon without them being able to be sued by Pokemon, but it's called Magimonsters.
Wow, they really tried with that one.
I know they super tried.
I can't believe they didn't get sued.
They
Magimonsters.
just kickstarted their second expansion book in October.
Wow.
So it's been around. So it's basically the only thing difference between it is you like hold your Magimonster in crystals instead of Pokeballs.
Oh, okay.
And it's like
That makes sense.
it's like medieval. So it's like
Okay, that's
magic.
different. Sure.
Like you summon the Magimonster you know
From
what I
the
mean?
crystal.
Yeah.
Yes.
From the crystal. That's
Yeah.
actually kind of cool.
Yeah, so it's basically, but it's like a tabletop RPG, like pen and paper way to
Okay.
play like Pokemon.
Sure.
So I thought it was awesome.
I mean, that's kind of cool, honestly.
that's cool.
The tabletop part.
One shot does
It
a
did
couple
show
episodes.
up. Magic Monsters, monster catching tabletop role playing game by Late Night Games.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. The guys over at One Shot did 2 episodes of it. James D'Amato, nice job, guys. Very, very entertaining. It's a fun game. Seems cool, but yeah. We were going to talk about
Holy
ported.
cow. They
Yeah, I
raised
know.
a lot of money for that.
Yeah, they did.
14 grand?
Oh yeah, they
Holy
kickstarted
crap.
the heck out of it. So we were talking about ported retro gaming. So emulation is where you basically have a pseudo emulation of the game system on your computer or your phone or whatever, and then you have a rip of the game and you mount the rip into the pseudo drive.
So that you can play the
So that-
game
yeah.
on a system that would not normally be
Yes.
capable of handling it.
Exactly. So ported retro gaming is a little bit different because you're taking the actual physical game cartridge or disc in this case,
Just code in
whatever it may
general.
be, but it's the actual physical, and then you're using a secondary or tertiary device to plug that into your console or your computer. So you have a physical copy of the game, but now you're using like a Raspberry Pi crosscoder.
Okay. So you had me confused for a moment there because I was thinking that you had like a separate box almost.
I mean, you do.
To an extent, because I was going to jump to this and be like, well, I see a lot of times on Steam, there's a lot of games that I'll play that are older games, and they'll say, oh, the PS2 port or the PlayStation Vita port to whatever has finally come.
That's an emulation.
Well, to an extent, isn't Steam that separate box between your computer
but
and
when
the game?
when they say like ported retro gaming, it'd be like if I went to like a retro game store and like I bought the actual physical cartridge of something, and then you have a RenPi adapter like that you can put the cartridge in and plug it into your computer, and now you can play that game on your computer.
Okay.
So that's ported retro gaming.
So
like in
so
the
when Steam says it's a port,
when
it's an emulation.
like okay, so for instance, how we can play Final Fantasy IX, a PlayStation 1 game, on a PlayStation 3.
That's
ported.
ported because you still
Ported.
have the actual physical disc.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So when Steam says they have a port, that's an emulation.
Yeah, technically.
Okay.
So there's a lot more like a lot of companies, like I think X Arcade is actually coming out with some too, where you can
X Arcade's coming out with a lot right
so
now.
you can get the different adapters. So if you have like old because I know people's Pokemon games are
Their
about to
batteries
lose.
are-
You're
If
about.
they're not about to go, they're
They
already
already
gone.
have.
Yeah.
The problem with the old cartridges for Game Boy is that the batteries for the memory are about to go for most of us,
Mhm.
or if they haven't
Or
already.
have already gone.
So if you get the
Games
little
do that? I didn't know they did.
for the Game Boy.
Yep.
The Game Boy cartridges have
Specifically Pokemon.
have a little batteries in them, so the memory is saved and
Because
persistent.
there's no other way to have a save file
Oh.
since the the console itself, the Game Boy, didn't have a.
I carry my Game Boy Color around that has the back lost, and I play it at
But your
work,
Game Boy
so-
Color doesn't have an ability
Yeah.
to save.
Yeah,
You
it's
save
just
it
the
to the actual
console.
cartridge.
Yeah.
itself,
Once
yeah.
the cartridge's little battery dies, there's no
That's
way
it.
to replace that, and your save files are gone.
Yeah. There's no
So
way to
every
recover
time
that.
you start the game and play it, it'll be starting it from the beginning.
Number one.
Mhm.
Yep.
So this is a great way to save if any of you like are really crazy about wanting to keep, if you have that one copy of Pokemon Red that you went to the Pokemon
You had the Mewtwo
tournament
one, or-
and you
yeah.
got the Mewtwo because you could only get that if you went to the convention
Right.
for Pokemon, and like you're about to lose that
Yeah.
if you haven't already. And so this is a great way to save it because
Yeah.
then with the ported, you can upload that to your computer and now it's saved forever.
Right.
So that's a big new thing coming through.
X Arcade's got a lot of cool stuff.
I will say Nintendo did a good job of
What was that one thing?
acknowledging
Yeah,
that
they have some
because
cool stuff.
about 2-3 years ago, they put up on their Nintendo store, you can buy it on your 2DS or 3DS, you can buy a copy of Red, Blue, or Yellow, the old school, like the literal old school game, and it would just be saved to your 2DS or your 3DS. And I think it was only like $5 or $10. I think it was $5 actually. And yeah, you started from scratch again, but this time starting from scratch, you will never lose that save.
Yeah, but you can't get Mewtwo, so
That's true, and that's an unfortunate fact. But if you didn't go to that tournament and get the Mewtwo, then this is, it is what it is.
yeah. But if you did, you're like, nah.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you had to go to there.
Yeah, you physically had
and
to go.
have them link cable to yours and then give you the Mewtwo.
And 20 years ago, that was a lot harder to do.
Oh, it's almost impossible. I remember the first time when I got a link cable from
Are
my
you
Game
kidding
Boy.
me? Man, you know how hard it was to get my mom to take me to the Pokemon movie?
I saw
Which,
it.
by the way,
The
was
first one?
the first one.
2000? Pokemon 2000, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Wasn't it so awesome?
And
And
was
you got
amazing.
the golden
And it made me sad.
holographic Mewtwo
It really
card.
did. Yeah, manly tears were shed.
Yes.
Yeah. But they're doing a lot of
Very
cool
manly
things
ones.
Yeah, very, very
with
manly.
ported retro gaming.
13-year-old me.
I think. Why do you guys think it is that there's such like a resurgence of like this kind of 8-bit gaming?
Because it worked. Because it wasn't okay, way back when, okay. Matt, we watched it. It's one of my favorite videos on YouTube is Egoraptor's sequelitis about The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time. Okay? He puts this in perfectly.
Honestly, both his
Because-
sequelitis I've seen
Yeah,
are
well, all of them
spot
are great.
on.
He's got like 4 or 5 of them, I think, because it's Castlevania as well.
Yeah.
Anyways, he talks about the Ocarina of Time, which he just rips a new one. Oh my god! And I agree with him on every points that I were like had problems with.
One of
way
his
back
lines
when,
is like,
but-
"What am I doing with my life? I'm harshly criticizing
criticizing-
Ocarina of Time on the internet. They're going to crucify
Yeah,
me."
I would get crucified. But anyways, he's comparing Ocarina of Time to A Link to the Past. That's the whole video. Is he's just comparing the two.
And
One
he
of the
does-
things
he
that
periodically bounces to some of the other Zelda games to reference
right.
them.
One of the things that he brought up was the transition between the third dimension to the first dimension to the third dimension, so 3D to sprite top down, was that more when you go into a 3D space, like all games are 3D space now, pretty much that comes out. You take away you add a y-axis to it, which makes things
You had a Z-axis.
a z-axis. I'm sorry, which makes things complicated. But so he makes that specific point, like in Ocarina of Time, when you're running around, you can't see behind you, wherever. Like it's a mess. You get hit behind by something, and it's like, oop, that sucks. But in the A Link to the Past, you see that happen. You can see it. You can see it around behind you, top down, pixel based, everything. It's simple. It's a very simple game mechanic. There's an enemy there. How do I get around it? There's a boss there. How do I fight it?
I think
there
helps
isn't all
people
this extra
that aren't
3D
really
crap.
good at games either. Like I am terrible.
Yeah,
at
it
any
helped
game.
you.
Like the Game Boy games that I play are Ants and Monsters Inc. and I can't be. I
All right.
can't
Yeah.
beat either of them.
It's
Let me lend you my Micro
It's-
Machines game. It's awesome.
It's simpler. It's easy. It's easier to translate what's happening to the player, and I completely agree.
Well, one of the other things...
It's one of those things where like you can completely change. It takes a great game, 3D, like 3D space and all that, can take a great game and turn it into a completely broken one. Look at Sonic 06, for example.
I'd rather not.
What was wrong with Sonic the Hedgehog side scroller? What was wrong with it?
Nothing.
It was beautiful.
You gave it a Y-axis. You broke it. You destroyed it.
To be fair, though, I will counter your argument with the best example.
Okay.
Mario moving from 2D to 3D in Mario 64
Was
is
super
heralded
cool. It's
as
great.
one of the best Mario
Yes.
games.
Okay.
Mario
ever.
64 is fantastic.
Now I'm gonna counter that with one of the points that
You're
Ego-
going to counter my counter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone hates you when you play Blue Decks.
Yeah, that's true. I'm usually a red-white, but anyway,
That's a good joke.
one of the
Flying
points
Reach.
one of the points that Ego Raptor brought up in his video was that the Ocarina of Time, they went to 3D and they were so focused on showing you, look, this is 3D, look, this is the world,
Yeah,
that
super
they,
flashy, whooshy,
that they
whooshy.
didn't make a
Yeah.
good game. You've got like, oh, I'm gonna go into this temple. Halfway through the temple, I'm gonna get an item. Gee, I wonder what item I'm gonna need to beat the boss at the end of the temple. What a coincidence! You use that item to do the same maneuver over and over and over. Nothing changes throughout the entire boss fight. Game over. Move to the next one.
Right.
I mean, through the looking glass of modern gaming, we can say like, oh, it's linear gaming posing as open world. But in the context of that time period, that was open world.
Oh yeah. That
I'll
was,
give
you-
we
So, like,
didn't have anything to go off.
It's like it's
besides
the
that.
it was the illusion of open world
Right.
with a linear story.
Right. Because open world wasn't really a thing unless you played like. Was World of Warcraft around back then? No, it was Warcraft.
No.
It was Warcraft first.
But that wasn't
Yeah,
open
but
world. That was RTS.
That was
No, that's what I'm
RTS.
saying. That's what I'm saying. What was open world?
But no,
back
I'm
the
gonna
first
say
Grand Theft Auto.
then? Okay.
Yeah,
That's
that
the
was
biggest
open
I think we could get.
world-ish. Sure, we'll go with that.
That's the only thing that comes
Yeah.
to
Well,
mind
the
with
one
open
thing
world,
I will
like
say-
sandbox.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say about that though is that I'm not saying that that's completely the 100%. That's why, because I look at Final Fantasy, for example. The original ones were so bland, like 1, 2, and 3, 1 through 5, which is bland. They're all the same.
Blasphemy, but all
No,
right.
they're great. I love them. They're fantastic. But when you look at the art style, it's just mush. Like it's just like it's so. It's almost like when you play the games like they didn't finish. When you walk across like where there's trees, you walk on the tree line. It's like you're walking over like a picture.
Yeah.
They couldn't code you to go in and like a little thing come up. You know,
I get you.
like it's just. But the games were great because they had the art, the pixel art. And the battles and everything were incredible. But now we fast forward to where we are now.
The other
Final
thing
Fantasy
is
15.
with your Final Fantasy story. They built a story.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first two didn't. I mean, they kind of had a story. I mean, they had a story, but
Okay, it's not as
you know,
good as some of the other ones.
You just
sure,
had wizard,
obviously.
You just had white, blue, red wizard and stuff like that. The original ones.
yeah.
there
Dark
was no
Mage,
character.
Dark Mage, White Mage,
Yeah.
Fighter.
That was
Yeah.
it. And then they started putting characters in, which I think was a great move
Yeah, it
for
was.
them to do because
So-
you create likables. But now we go into like what we're at now, Final Fantasy 15, which the three of my favorite things in the world: Legend of Zelda, Dragon Ball Z, and Final Fantasy. To me, those are my favorite franchises for video games, and Final Fantasy 15 is my favorite. And I know there's a lot of people out there who hated Final Fantasy 15.
Who hated 15?
I know so many people that
Really?
hate Final Fantasy 15 because here's why.
I don't get
But
that.
here's the
I don't
thing.
either.
Here's the reason why
I really enjoyed it.
I have had so many
It's a
arguments with
fantastic
people. I
game.
said, okay, what's wrong with Final Fantasy 15? Well, just a bunch of boy band boys going along. I'm like, okay, so cut that out.
Oh man.
What else is bad?
A Japanese RPG game with androgynous looking male protagonists? How unheard of.
Yeah. Well,
All
here's
right.
the thing about
I've never seen one of those.
I
ever.
destroyed one of my buddies who said something. He was like, "Well, I don't like it because the characters look like a bunch of boy bands guys, and they're all whiny whooshy with blah, blah." And I'm like, "What's your favorite Final Fantasy game?" He's like, "Final Fantasy 7." I'm like, "Oh, because Cloud's not that way, right?" He's not a little whiny boy.
My dad's dead.
Zack Fair died, and I have his sword. I am my own monster. You know, it's like
Aerith got stabbed in the back.
Yeah, you're telling me you're not.
We got
That whole
spoilers.
Final Fantasy 7, all the characters besides like Baird and Sid are whiny little babies.
Oh, by the way, I heard $9.99 you can get the Aerith Lives DLC.
Ugh, who would want
Oh my
that?
god! And it's
glad.
like Final Fantasy 7 had the most like emo character, Vincent Valentine. He's a freaking vampire dude who's
I
just
like Vincent.
oh no, I love him. I love him. But that's the thing. They're like
No,
emo, blah blah blah, and I'm like
the one Final Fantasy
serious?
where everyone was, the main character was not like,
a little whiny.
yeah, it was
emo.
9.
Yeah,
9
because even
you-
8 Squall was a little.
Oh,
like,
he was a punk.
He was a little
no,
punk.
but
I mean, he was a badass, but he was.
what's
a
his
punk.
name in 9? I forget his name.
Who?
Who's the main character in 9?
It's
Kubo.
no, not Kubo.
Oh, shut
No,
up.
I'm kidding.
But yeah, the Final Fantasy, and that's why
Honestly-
9's my favorite, because he's not just a whiny little.
I only
punk.
have one complaint about 15, and it's a weak one at best, is that, and again, it's that illusion of open world where, yeah, you can go anywhere you want.
Yeah.
But the storyline, like, you literally can't. You're blocked from going here until you reach chapter 4, and then you can move on. It's like, I mean,
I didn't like the time travel
The heck is his name?
that was a little,
aspect. I didn't like how you couldn't do things
until you beat
until
it,
you
and then
travel
you
back,
go back
in time. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't care for
that
that
was weird, but that was okay, I guess.
eh.
But I just didn't like the part where
I
it's
also
like,
didn't understand why the dog was the time traveling dog.
Was it Zidane or
Zidane.
Zidane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got
was
nothing.
he was the best.
But here's the thing about that though is Final
Because he's
Fantasy,
the rogue too. You know that's
Yeah.
why. Because he was the first main character who was a rogue.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Final Fantasy 15,
Bad.
you know, people had a lot of arguments with it, but I'm like, and they're trying to compare and contrast it to the older games, and I'm like, yeah, it's an open
you almost,
game,
but you almost can't.
like it's an open game, but people are like, well, I hate it, just like what you guys said. I hate when you get to a certain point, you can't go back and do stuff, and I'm like,
That was
any
annoying.
person who has ever played a Final Fantasy game knows you can't do that.
No,
Even
9
in
you
the
could.
old, yeah, 9
you
that's
could.
the only
and that's
one.
why 9's the best.
Yeah, 9's great.
9's the best because once you got to, like, it took you like 3/4 of the game to get to open world, but once you get the airship, you can go anywhere. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And you can, and like,
Well, I think you could do that in 8 also. I think you could go anywhere you want in your car.
8 sucked.
The one thing I did like about 8 though is 8 had the Final Fantasy 8 had the classic. You could drive the car on the map, and it resembled like Final Fantasy 1, 2, and 3, where you would walk on top of the map to get to your destination. It was the same idea. You know, it was just better
All right,
graphics. It was kind of cool.
A throwback. Yeah,
it's a
kinda cool.
throwback.
9 the
It
best.
wasn't even that far because they stopped doing that in 5, I think it was, and then 6 and 7, and they did it in 8.
Yeah.
But anyways, no, it was like every person who played Final Fantasy, who's an avid Final Fantasy player, knows like, well, that's why you finish everything before you go to the next part. You have to grind a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, that's just JRPG.
Like
They're
me?
always grindy.
Like, for those of you who played Final Fantasy 15, the week that it came out, I think the third day that I was playing it, I really spent a lot of time like leveling because I play RPGs. You gotta level. If you don't level and you get to a certain point, you get wrecked. You better hope you add an extra save data so you can go back.
Yeah.
I grinded.
Always have 2 saves.
I came across. You guys played it. I came across the Bandersnatch, which is right in the beginning at the first level. Was that big like T-Rex looking monster thing?
Yeah. You can go back and grind him for XP.
I figured that out by the time I got to the Golden Key, the little vacation spot.
Yeah.
When I found out, when you go here and you sleep, you get double XP. Oh, this lady gives you a food that gives you like mad experience boost. Like, it's crazy. Oh,
Bandersnatch mining.
And then I was noticing that when you were doing your elemency, that you can add items in. One of them said Expericast. I had no idea what any of this stuff was, and I was just like, well, I wonder if I can go kill the Bandersnatch with Expericast. And I only did it once, saved it. I was level 50 before I even got to like chapter 3.
Yeah.
And then I rolled the entire game, which kind of took the challenge away in the boss battles. But at the same time, That's what Final Fantasy and
Okay.
RPG games are about. Is grinding. And
I
finding
will-
things
There's
out.
one part in that game that no matter what level you are was going to be challenging, and that was that stupid ring.
That was pretty tough.
I was actually going to bring that up.
That was
Is
pretty
that
tough.
the ring magic completely broke the flow of the game?
Yeah.
I think it was unnecessary, and I think it actually because I wasted time trying to master it, and then I
Never needed it.
and then I read up and I was like, this is stupid. It's not even that powerful compared to like his other attacks,
Yeah.
like useless to use.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, well then that's lame.
Like I like the concept of.
I like the idea, but it was executed very poorly.
I like the idea in the storyline of taking this away from you for a brief moment and making you suffer a little bit and have to like, oh, this is going to be
you're
a
talking
lot
about
harder.
the king's what armor or whatever it is. The
Where
king's
you lose
arms?
your sword, you lose your everything, and you
Yeah.
only have the ring.
Oh yeah.
I hated that.
I mean, I like the
It made
concept
it
of making it
so
one short little
unnecessarily
thing
difficult.
just to make it hard on you. Like, you need to understand you're suffering.
Yeah.
I get that. But you don't somehow tell your players that they know they're going to get what they get back. This isn't going to be very long. Just you have to fight through the pain. And it's like, all right, so I've gotta somehow deal with this. All right, let's push on. Let's do it.
Thing
Yep.
sucked.
It did.
I
It sucked.
hated it.
It sucked.
But like it made you be like, oh my god,
Yeah.
these things are terrible. Go, don't
But-
hit me, come on.
But Final Fantasy 15 is my favorite because it's the same thing. Why I say they're like a couple of my favorite sci-fi movies is Blade Runner. I like the new one, and I liked Ghost in the Shell. It's because movies these days for sci-fi don't give you enough time to really take in the world and be in the world of sci-fi. Final Fantasy 15 let you do that, which was like, look at all this stuff. You have a car, or you could just go by foot or ride a chocobo. Enjoy the world of Final Fantasy. I love that. I thought it was
I
great.
think.
Hold on,
so
you've beaten
going,
the game?
Yeah, like 5 times.
Well, tell you what. Let's slap some wings on this thing, and now
Yeah,
you can
they-
enjoy the world of Final Fantasy from your car
Yeah.
in the air.
And go places you couldn't get to.
Secret
With that.
dungeon.
I hated that turtle thing.
Yeah.
The
Dude, oh
turtle
my
mountain.
God.
I
I only
hated
beat
that
it
thing.
once. I was like,
I
forget
hate
this.
that thing.
Takes like 3 days
I
to
still
beat.
haven't beaten it.
Takes
It's
3
stupid.
days to beat.
It's not worth it. What you get isn't worth
An
it.
achievement.
No,
That's
Yeah.
it.
Don't even get the
It's
achievement.
not
for
even.
it.
It's not even a gold trophy. So
I know,
Yeah.
right?
it's silver. So not worth
But
it.
yeah. So, anyways,
going back to
yeah.
my original question.
Final Fantasy is great.
The reason let me ask you before I give my answer is
Okay.
why do you think there's been such a huge upsurge in retro gaming?
Honestly, I was actually going to go back to this, which is kind of funny. I'm going to throw it back to what Steve was saying. I think it's a bit of half and half. I think from the developer side, it's just easier. Indie gamers can do this, and they can make good games with unique
Minimal
storylines that
requirements.
they've come up with that would never be made otherwise because they're not a AAA. They're not a AAA.
Yeah, you don't have a team of like 300 artists.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But they can still get it out there, and it does not mean it's a bad game just because the graphics are 8-bit. But from the player side of it, I think it's more of a back to your roots, I guess, is the phrase I'd use. I know it's not quite right, but it's kind of where people are like, I've gotten to the point where I'm on Steam browsing through my list of games, and it's like, what do I want to play? What do I want to play? Well, what's on sale? And I'm like, oh, what's this? I've never heard of this. And it's Legend of the what is that one? I forget exactly what it is. There's a whole Trail in the Sky or something like that.
Oh, you're talking about, yeah, it's the Tales series.
Yeah.
Tales
Tales
of
of
Vesperia.
Vesperia.
Oh no, the other
Tales
one.
of Hysteria. Well, there's
Trail
Trails in the Sky.
That's
yeah.
the one. Yeah, that's a series too.
That's that's
I had never heard of it until I saw it on Steam and went, "Oh, what's this?" And it's like, "Oh, cool, another JRPG. Well, I like it. Let's start it." And it's just because I'm kind of bored with what I have. Let's go back to
it's the
what
Legend
I
of
know.
Heroes, Trails in the Sky.
That's it. Legend of Heroes.
yeah, it's a Legends game.
Yeah. Because the Tales of game is more three.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tales of Legend and all that. Yeah.
So let me go ahead and throw my answer in real quick. I think the main reason, I think you guys are both right. It's easier for coders and programmers. But I
Also
think,
nostalgic.
yeah, I think the nostalgia also plays a big part in it. But I think that when if you're making a video game today,
Okay.
you literally have like a seemingly endless amount of memory and graphics, and you can make a game look hyper realistic and still have tons of memory left for game mechanics, story, artwork,
when you
everything.
Make a game that's 60 gigabytes.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Is like
Final Fantasy
you
15.
have like a nearly like
Infinite.
limit. Yeah,
It's basically infinite.
for the Blu-ray disc holds just so much information, and if you zip it, like how Metal Gear Solid had to do, it can hold even more information.
Yeah.
Like if you compress it and then you uncompress it by installing it, like it can hold even more like data, just raw data. So everything can look amazingly beautiful and hyper realistic, and it can look as beautiful as you envision it to be, and then you can have all your cool game mechanics and everything. 20, 30 years ago, you were always trying to make the best game within these memory limits.
Yep.
And I think that drove creators to be more creative with how they use memory. Like for instance, this is the first example.
I'm gonna real quick throw back your reference to the mustache. I hadn't known that until you mentioned it. Mario's mustache. They didn't have the space, so they used what they had. Black dot. There's one pixel. Now it's a mustache.
Yeah, exactly. So they had to work around the pixelated, usage of sprites. I think the story that always comes most to my mind is that when Hideo Kojima was making the very first Metal Gear game, he initially envisioned it as being a hyper fast shooter.
Right.
It was originally going to be like a really intense, like running around, run and gun. Like he wanted it to be Die Hard.
Yeah.
Was how he imagined it. It was going to be a Die Hard James Bond shooter, crazy spy, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But because of the memory limits on the Nintendo and the Famicom that it originally came out on, whenever there were more than 3 enemies on screen and you were all shooting at each other, the sprites for the bullets would slow down and it would almost cause the system to crash. So the bullets would be 1 speed when you were fighting 1 enemy and a slower speed when there were 2 enemies and 3 enemies slower speed, and it would just get slower and slower because the RAM for the system wasn't fast enough and it couldn't hold that many different sprites doing this many different things at once.
Right.
So instead, he tweaked the game. He's like, we've already, done so much and we have all this artwork. We're going to tweak the game. So now, instead of like a run and gun shooter, now it's a spy. So you want to be stealthy. You want to have like very
You don't
methodical.
want 3 enemies on the field
exactly
at once.
because you're going to die.
Yeah, you get wrecked.
So he completely changed the entire basis of the game, like to fit within the
Constraints he had.
the hardware constraints. And that to me, those limits that you have to work within drives creativity, because now Metal Gear Solid is unquestionably like one of the biggest and most lucrative video game franchises in history.
Yep.
Like I don't
Easily.
think anyone could argue with that. Like,
Yeah.
No.
just for the amount of money, exposure, story,
I would say
gameplay.
I'd say the only thing that could even hold a candle to it is Pokemon.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think that as far as video game like legends go, Mario,
Sonic,
Pokemon, Sonic, and Metal Gear Solid's up there. And
And
that's
and RPG Final Fantasies. And all
yeah,
that.
and that's because he those constraints on memory and like ability drove creativity. It became, because of this one thing, it drove it to be one of the most successful game series of all time.
Yeah.
And
So I think working within those constraints and like having those, because now, okay, so you'll have a game like Assassin's Creed.
Okay.
Okay, so like for like four, yeah, but
So
like,
good.
but there are like 5 or 6 games in the Assassin's Creed series where there's just too much stuff. Like it's just an overabundance of things.
There's a lot of stuff happening.
And the
yeah.
story and the actual gameplay gets lost in all of that.
Okay. Yeah.
The getting
You know what I
pulled,
mean?
the getting pulled out periodically throws me too.
I didn't mind it because it was introduced in the first game, but I'm saying like, okay, like in Brotherhood and after, before they took away all these like mini gaming stuff with all the other assassins and you were like defending stuff, like there was all this other stuff going on that
Too many side quests.
drew away from like the point of the game.
Yeah.
You
And
know
there's
what I mean?
A lot.
Yeah, there
going
was
on.
like one of them, I think it was Brotherhood, that it was just like there's way too much stuff. Like there's just way too much stuff.
Was that the second one?
No, it was like the last
which
Ezio,
one
the
was-
last Ezio one.
Was that the last one?
Whatever the last Ezio.
I know which one you're talking. Yeah,
I
you
think
to,
it's-
is that the one where you have to like defend the towers and all that
Yes,
crap, and
yes,
otherwise they take it over.
Yes.
and then like
Yep.
if you walk anywhere in there, you're screwed.
And
they
then it
notice
was like,
you.
and it was like, if you weren't playing the game like for long enough, then you lose all your towers, so you have to constantly be
You
playing.
have to constantly
Like that's
update
what I'm
it.
saying. Having too much ability to do too much stuff, like kind of takes away from the game. And you notice, like after that game, they got rid of all of that.
Yeah.
They got rid of all of that because it was just a terrible idea. So
No,
they're like, oh,
Brotherhood, it was the second one.
just more stuff. We'll just put more and more stuff that you got to do, more and more stuff, and you're just like trying to manage all these different like balls in the air that you got
Because-
going, and it just takes away from
Because
like
they're running
the
with
core
what
of the
they
game.
have,
Yeah,
not with creativity.
yeah. The core of the game is like sneaking up on people and stabbing them in the throat with my hidden blade.
And then
But
drag
now
them
you-
into a hay
Assassin's Creed
pile.
Revelations.
Revelations, that was it.
And then drag them into a hay pile so they don't get noticed.
Yeah, that's the core.
Because you
of the
don't
game.
Brotherhood was
want
the
lots
best
of
one
enemies
for me.
on the
Okay.
screen.
That was two.
Okay, that was the second
That
Ezio
second-
one.
No, Brotherhood was the first Ezio one.
Okay, yeah, that one was good.
That one was great.
That one was great.
I think that was the first one.
Um,
I don't know.
but
whatever.
The
but that-
first two were great.
You get what I'm saying, though. Like this
Yeah.
unbound amount of memory and stuff kind of like drew away from the core gameplay ideas.
Yes.
Because I
did.
think, even Metal Gear Solid kind of was like walking that line
Metal
with
Gear
the
Solid has
the
a couple
new-
of not good
the-
ones.
bite your tongue. Which
No,
ones?
no. Not any of the console ones, but the ones for handheld, like Acid.
Oh,
And all those ones?
Yeah.
And actually, you know
Yeah.
which one I didn't like? Everyone loves it. I played it twice. Didn't like it. Peace Walker. Didn't like it.
I get what you're saying, but I was in the new one, in the newest one, not the one that just came out, but Phantom Pain or
Oh yeah. That's the one.
yeah, Phantom Pain. There's a lot of stuff going on. Like as far as
That's
like
a great game. I like that.
it
Phantom Pain.
is, but I feel like it's
very short.
It's almost no. What was the one that Ground Zero? No, Ground Zero was the short one, and Phantom Pain was the full game.
Yes.
Okay. In Phantom Pain, there's like all this base management stuff going on that like it almost is too much. Like you can just like not do any of that and you can still beat the main game. But I feel like you kind of have to do some of it, and it's just a lot of just
a lot of
crap going on.
Yeah, it's a lot of
So
work.
you're saying that it's taken away from like the fun of playing games?
Yes,
Makes it, like, a
and it
chore?
makes it tedious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's my problem.
Yeah.
And that you didn't have that with
The original
retro
one,
games
yeah.
because they couldn't put tedious things like
'Cause they didn't
add-ons
have the
in it
data.
because they didn't have the memory for it.
Yeah. Here's okay, and that kind of goes back to where I was going with the developers. You have these guys who have good ideas for games, who have full stories, who have brilliant ideas that aren't just extra fillers shoved in because let's have more and more and more stuff to do.
Mm-hmm.
But they would never have normally gotten their chance to make it because it's not they're not a AAA team of 50
Yeah.
people. They're just one dude behind a keyboard. But with this 8-bit art, that sprites that are already built into RPG Maker, all they have to do is code it and write their story. Anyone
Yeah.
with a good story can make a great game.
I think just as another analogy is I think we can all agree that Star Wars 1, 2, and 3, Phantom Menace, Clone Wars, and Revenge of the Sith are just awful movies.
Like
The best
them.
one is 3.
Yeah.
I
But
like
they
them.
brought us Episode 1 Pod Racer.
I'm gonna stick with movies for my analogy
Oh,
for a
okay.
second.
Okay.
There's something called the Phantom Edit.
Okay. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
For the people that don't know, the Phantom Edit is
Thank you, Spider-Man.
is a fan went and he took the Phantom Menace and Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith and he re-edited them, and he cut about
the
a
fat.
half an hour
Yeah.
out of each movie. And he transforms these like very awful movies into great movies,
Yeah.
great Star Wars movies.
I like
And
them.
it's so you haven't seen the edits, and
The
you-
edits
I
make
haven't
it
yet,
so much
but
better.
you told me about them.
yeah, and if you
So-
see them, you'll be like, "Oh yeah, this is a great movie. This
I'm
is
not saying
better."
that you're not wrong. I'm just saying I like
Yeah.
them
Especially
how they were.
comparatively. I mean, it's something like it's just that trimming of the fat. When you have something or someone there to like kind of dial you back and put like a constraint on you, because another
Yeah, where was
example-
that person when George Lucas made Jar Jar?
He was too rich. No one wanted to second guess the Lucas. He was too rich and too powerful, and he was like he had gotten so big. And I love George Lucas. I will never not love George Lucas for what he's given me, because Star Wars has given me so much just in my life for morality, entertainment. I will never not love George Lucas.
Right.
That isn't to say that I don't have some criticisms of him. He got so big and so into his head of how much of a legend he was, and he is, that he either couldn't hear criticism or he didn't have anyone around him who wasn't a sycophant and just, oh yeah, George, that's great. That's a great idea. That's a great idea, George. You know what I mean? Like he had
nothing but
Surrounded
yes
by
men.
yes man. Yeah.
yeah, it was either one of the two. Either he didn't hear it because I'm George Lucas, I'm the greatest filmmaker of all time.
You're criticizing me? Well, you're wrong. Anyway,
Exactly. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you invent Luke Skywalker? No, you didn't. I think I know what I'm doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
And those games were hard.
You know, like-
those early ones.
it's like
They were hard.
I love the movie Alexander.
Okay.
Like, it's a great movie.
Too long.
It is so long. The director's cut is 3 hours and 40 minutes.
That movie's a beating
Same
for
thing
sure.
with Troy.
Oh man, those movies are so long.
Return of the King. How many endings do they have?
At
least
thing.
5.
I love Lord of the Rings, but at like hour 3, I'm like, I gotta get
Wrap
out.
it
I-
up
You're
already.
like,
Let's
man, I got
go.
something to do.
Let's go.
I got other things to do.
And the
I'm
other,
in the theater. I gotta pee. Come on,
Yeah,
let's
I
go.
gotta pee.
I gotta go.
They
They're
should've
giving
come
out.
up
They're
pee
giving it.
break.
They're giving it. They're giving
Intermission.
out. They're giving out colostomy bags at the concession stand
giving out
for
extra
the
large Gatorade
for the
bottles.
director. Yeah, for the director's cut of Return of the King.
Extra large Gatorade bottles.
So, anyways, I think the constraints are what drove creativity.
Yes.
So,
I would agree
Definitely.
with that.
And we need to wrap up here in a minute. Before we wrap up and read this, and then we'll go into our last bit. I want to remind everyone this episode of the podcast is also brought to you by Player One Coffee. Did you know that taking up on a bit of coffee can boost mental prowess and help a person play a better game? It's true. Player One's coffee's blends are designed to enhance your chances of being the top gamer in your circle. Gamers everywhere have nothing to lose and everything to gain by giving these delicious, carefully hand-roasted coffee a chance to show you how it can help your game performance. The next time you're going over your items to enter a dungeon, rescue the princess, or game with some friends, you know what type of coffee should be in your inventory. To get 5% off of your first purchase, visit playeronecoffee.com and use the code LikableGeeks at checkout. It's that easy. Again, visit playeronecoffee.com, use the code LikableGeeks at checkout to receive 5% off of your first order. Thank you, Player One Coffee, for sponsoring this episode of the Really Likable Geeks podcast. Get you guys some coffee, become a better gamer. You touched my leg.
I did ever so gently.
Caressed it.
All right, guys. So out of everything we talked about, retro titles, there's tons of them. There's so many. Which one's your favorite?
You want to set some boundaries? Let's say
No. Oh, you
No.
mean like of when?
Yeah.
I would say no disc based,
Ooh, interesting.
all cartridge only,
Okay.
Okay.
and there was a lot of cartridges.
I'm okay with this
Yeah.
because
If
I
we-
didn't know how early we could go.
I mean, if we were gonna say disc based, I would say Dreamcast,
PS1 only?
Dreamcast, PlayStation, and GameCube are okay.
Really? GameCube that far?
PlayStation 1,
GameCube came out after PlayStation 1.
I know, but that was the
I'd take GameCube out.
I would say
Sure, 'cause,
I would say 64 is the limit.
Honestly,
okay,
I don't
so
even,
cartridge only then.
I don't
Yeah,
even know
cartridge
about
only.
that. How about we
Cartridge
just
only.
say
Cartridge only.
take out 3D?
Okay, so before 64.
So before 60.
Yeah, before 64.
Okay.
And that's still pretty early though.
You want to go first?
Yeah.
Go for it.
If I had to choose a retro game that I could repeatedly play and never get tired of it, no matter how many times I play it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably would have to be Chrono Trigger.
Ooh.
That
For
is a
the
good
Super
one.
Nintendo. I loved Chrono Trigger.
Well done.
Now, I know that that's super cliche because so many people love that game. They really, really do.
It's a good game.
There
Great
was
story.
a game
Such a great story too.
for
Yeah.
the Super Nintendo, and it was also an arcade game called Sunset Riders.
Yes, and it was arcade.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You had think it was
Oh.
4
Super
cowboys
Nintendo.
to choose.
Yeah,
So
there
it
was
was
Blue.
Billy,
Blue all the way.
yeah,
Billy the Blue.
Billy the Blue, Steve, Coronado, and I don't remember the green
who's-
haired guy with the shot. The other green haired guy. I don't remember his
Yeah.
name.
I like
But
the guy
anyways,
with the Mexican.
yeah, it's
The
Coronado.
poncho.
Yeah, there you go.
The poncho.
Yeah, he.
Oh, I loved him. I think he was orange.
That
Yeah.
game. No, he's pink.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That game was a side scroller western, and it was
Fantastic.
unbelievable.
Oh yes.
Yeah, that was great.
Super, and it was hard.
Riding on
Oh
trains.
my gosh, it was right
The hardest the hardest part was the stampede.
Yeah,
like
yeah,
not
jump on
falling.
it and
Yeah,
fall in
not
and jump
falling in
back on.
between.
That game
Yeah.
was hard.
Yeah.
See, I was a big fan of Western games back then because I also liked Gunsmoke for the NES.
I
remember
loved
Gunsmoke?
Draw.
Yeah.
It was the you were just a guy. It was a top-down scroller. The game scrolled down.
Oh,
you
there
went
was-
up and you went through the town.
My favorite Western
was
game
awesome.
is Custer's Revenge.
But yeah, no. So I would say,
No.
honestly, the all-time favorite retro title was Sunset Riders. I love that.
Nice.
Game.
That's a
It's
good one.
hard.
That is a good choice.
It's hard.
I'm gonna throw it back to the very first game I ever actually went like 100% beat all the way, saw the end title and everything. I could, like he said, I could play this game into eternity and never get tired of playing it. Throw it right back to the Super Nintendo, Donkey Kong Country.
Oh yeah, that was 3D too.
No, it
No,
wasn't.
it wasn't. It was
technical-
side
Donkey Kong
scroller.
Country,
No.
side scroller.
It was 3D though. It was the first.
It was
like,
the pseudo.
It
Yeah,
was pretty 3D though.
It was pseudo.
No, it wasn't
side
like
scroller.
3D. No, it was side scroller, but
but they weren't sprites.
they weren't sprites. It was programmed in 3D.
Yeah. I guess.
I can see
But
what
It
no.
was Super Nintendo.
No, but it was
so-
a great. I think that's a great.
There was
But
a lot of
okay,
depth
but
to it.
Star
Look at
Fox
that.
for the Super Nintendo was 3D.
Yeah, but that was polygonal.
I'm just saying if we're gonna split hairs.
I know. I mean, I'm just saying that I respected it for being
I
a
remember-
cartridge-based NES.
I remember the music to the boss fight.
Great games.
Ah.
And then what about?
Mine is a tie.
I was gonna go around one more time for the runner-up.
Oh, okay. Well, mine, I can't separate the two in my mind.
Oh, I gotta think of a runner up then.
The very first game I ever played on my very first home console, which was the Sega Genesis, I got it in 1994 when I was 5 years old, was Aladdin.
Okay.
I remember...
The Genesis version was
Yes.
so much better
Yeah.
too.
Yes, I remember playing this game every day for hours and hours.
So fun.
And I remember and playing video games today is trying to recapture the feelings I had playing that game.
Right.
Everything I play is comparison to that. Because the very first level, the very first time, I was like, what happens if I go left instead of right?
Uh-huh.
And I found that secret. And you get the extra life and you get a bunch of apples. I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm amazing.
10 out of 10.
Every secret I ever find in a video game is that same.
Yep.
There's that, because I can still play that game to this day
Right.
and just love it because the carpet ride levels are
I was gonna say
amazing.
that the carpet ride level
Are
was
amazing.
hard, but it's so fun. I know it's
So
getting a lot.
there's that game, and then
lot.
there's Streets of Rage 2.
Those are your two.
Streets of
That's
Rage
your
2
backup?
was amazing. That was the most insane game. So crazy. I was like, so we're just like roaming through the streets because I played at my friend's house. I
wrecking
was like, so wait, so we just go around beating people up? He's like, yeah, it's awesome. It was like, oh, and then check this out. And he pushes like the special button, and then it like the camera like swipes like super fast over to like the far left of the map, and you just see like a police car roll up, and the guy just like starts shooting rockets into the air, and it just like bombs where you're at and kills all the enemies. Like, what? This So Streets of Rage
Streets
2
of
and
Rage.
Aladdin.
That's
Aladdin.
awesome.
We'll go back around, Matt. What was your second? What's your runner-up?
All right. Well, I'm gonna do exactly what Stuart did here for my runner-up. I'm gonna go runner-up though. Is that first game I ever played on my NES that I got when I was like 6 years old, and it was World Cup Soccer.
Oh my gosh, really?
I
Heck yeah, man.
okay. You know how many hours I have logged on Rocket League.
Yeah.
You know how many hours you don't, but I have like I want to say more hours than that logged on Supreme Commander, which is it's a RTS that I played with buddies of mine when we used to play World of Warcraft. Hundreds of hours. If I'm willing to guess, none of these hold a candle to how many hours I have logged on that game.
Yeah.
I probably like. You know how when you watch a video too many times, the VHS, the tape is you can't watch it anymore. If a cartridge was physically capable of doing that, I did it to that cartridge.
Yeah.
I played that game so much. It was just being Germany and hitting that special ball. They were difficult because normally when you kicked the special ball that was going to take out the goalie so they couldn't block it, it went straight in. It's a goal. But Germany's was a zigzag up high, so it couldn't be blocked by anyone.
I remember that.
And if you miss the zigzag, it goes over the goal.
Yeah.
But it couldn't be blocked by anyone, so it's a goal no matter what, as opposed to like some of the other ones, if you hit a player before it hits the goalie, it slows the ball down. The goalie
Wasn't the
can stop it.
USA the one that bounced off?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I think
that was
so.
the one,
Yeah.
The USA was the pinball one.
Yeah. Mexico had a really cool one. It came like as a Y. It went in a half circle
Yeah.
and then came back and then straight in the goal.
Yeah. It was like a weird boomerang, which I thought should have been Australia's, but
Some of them were duplicates.
yeah.
You know, might have been. But I had so many hours logged on that game. And there were no refs.
That's a good
so
one.
you just slide tackle everyone
Yeah.
into oblivion.
I was the same way with the NHL 94 with the Quebec Nordiques before they were the Colorado Avalanche. Yeah. The fighting on that was so stupid, but I loved it. I would just check people just to try and get fights. Steve,
Runner up.
close it out.
My runner-up was a game for the NES that me and my dad seriously clocked thousands of hours in back then. I think actually we broke that game. We played it so much, and we had to buy another copy.
So that is possible then.
Yeah.
So I almost did it to mine.
And I don't know if you guys ever played it, but it was called Super Dodgeball. And it was for the
Yeah.
NES.
Oh, I didn't play it, but
Yeah.
I'd seen it.
That game, like, I lost my life to that. Me and my dad, every day I got home from school, homework, Super Dodgeball for like 10 hours. Like,
Stop
that's
trying
what
to
we
hit
did.
me and hit me.
You would just, it had, I can't remember the style that you called that, where all the characters, like, had a very specific look to them, and they all, I don't know, I can't remember what the art style was called, but it's just dodgeball. You know, you had a couple people on the outside and a few people on the inside, but your characters had these amazing abilities. Each country that you chose had a different ability. So if you chose like Japan and you like ran and threw the ball wouldn't just like go normal. It would turn into like a disc and like shoot across the map, and you could jump in there and throw it. And then like the ball would like teleport and disappear, and like it would go so fast it would break the sound barrier and hit another guy. It was just you could catch it, the ball, throw it back, and like it was, and that game was so buggy. It was insane. Like they never figured out how to not make that game like not glitch while it was playing. Like the map would like disappear and blink and stuff in certain areas when you're running, or your character would be moving and it would just like disappear like as you were moving. It shouldn't have.
Hey, hard to hit when you're
always
invisible.
did. Exactly. And but so
if
it
you
was
can turn
super
invisible,
buggy.
you can dodge a ball.
Yeah. And so Super Dodgeball. That game is such a simple mechanic. That's the thing too. Simple mechanic. You got a ball, you throw, try to beat the other team. That game was hard when you got like play like Iceland and stuff. Forget it. Which I thought was really funny too, because you played in Iceland and it was all ice, and I'm like, no, it's backwards. Greenland is full of ice, and Iceland is very nice. That's how the thing is. But anyways, Super Dodgeball for the NES.
You made me
Love that
remember.
game.
I have a tie for my runner up. NBA Jam.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
NBA
yeah.
Jam.
Sega Genesis, NBA Jam.
It's hard to realistically like pick like a one favorite.
I don't even have
because
to
there's
go
so
into
many.
it. Like that's
NBA
tied for
Yeah.
my runner up.
Everyone knows what
NBA
NBA
Jam.
Jam is.
Yeah, there's a lot. But yeah, those are the
Slamma
ones.
jamma.
Alrighty, well,
peanut butter, here comes the jam.
time to wrap it up. You can find the podcast on iTunes and Google Play, as well as Spotify and Podbean. Just search Really Likable Geeks on any of those platforms, and you will find us. You can also find all of the social media links to Really Likable Geeks at reallylikablegeeks.com. And you can hear a super special podcast on Patreon by going to patreon.com/likablegeeks. Pay $5. You can listen to a very special podcast that is not safe for work, but a load of fun. You can also get a whole bunch of other fun things for being a patron, like outtakes and other content that we don't put anywhere else. And if you pledge high enough, you can get merchandise and a bunch of other fun stuff from us. So patreon.com/likablegeeks. Pledge to us, get some cool stuff, help us out, help us continue to create this show. Words are hard. Like that shirt you can get by being a patron.
Hey.
You can find me on Twitter at @ThatStephenBrown.
You can find me on Twitter at BelieveTheWeave.
You can find me at Stu_no last name.
Thank you guys for listening to us reminisce about the past and compare and contrast. I just did that.
Well done.
I'm going to end with that one. Okay, bye guys. See you next week.
Goodbye.
You didn't do your thing.
No,
What thing?
I didn't.
What thing?
Because I'm on Twitter more often now. You can find me usually
avoiding Twitter.
You have been on Twitter a lot more lately.
I don't want to say a lot more, but
More lately
more.
than you have been.
Goodbye.